welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting, and we are so glad to have you on the program. Aw, yeah. Show number 130, we are brought to you by B&B Butchers and Restaurant at 1814 Washington Ave in Houston, and in the shops at Clear Fork in Fort Worth, and I would be remiss if I did not also mention B&B Lemon across the street from the main B&B location on Washington Ave in Houston. A wonderful little bar with an actual lemon
If you're
tree.
going to go out on a date and you want the high-end cocktails, that's a great place.
It's a good place to go. Yeah, absolutely. By the way, I saw a great video. It was on YouTube or something earlier this week. For those of you who don't want to drink,
I tried to have them take. Oh, you're talking about something else.
something totally different. Yeah. For those of you who don't want to add green food coloring to your beer for St. Patty's Day, in order to stay into the
You mean that's
St. Pat
food
spirit.
coloring?
Yeah, that's food coloring. That's that Miller Lite, green Miller Lite. Yeah, it's got green food coloring in it. I didn't. But if you don't want to do that,
Is that on the ingredient label?
well, I don't know. That's a good question. That's a good question. With
Green.
green
And green.
green stuff.
Number 4.
No, this video that I saw was awesome because what they did is they were taking tequila and they were infusing it with basil. And it makes it's a wonderful combination. They're saying you love the aroma, you love what it does to the tequila, and you infuse it just like when you take like a vodka and you put pineapple in it and you let it sit for a while. They do the same thing with tequila and basil, and it gives it this wonderful natural green with no artificial colors or food coloring involved. And then you make margaritas or you make whatever
Traditional
cocktail you want to
St.
make.
Patrick's margaritas.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Hey, we do live in Texas, so come on.
which made St. Patrick the patron saint of margaritas.
Right.
I think he's a patron saint of quite a few things, actually.
I will tell you, if you're listening to this and you're in a state that doesn't get margaritas at every single restaurant,
Yeah.
you're missing something.
You need to maybe think about moving to Texas. Yeah. I think, though, at this point, the margarita has become pretty
Ubiquitous?
Pretty ubiquitous, yeah.
Or if you're in one of those restaurants that makes margaritas with wine, you should eat in a
Yeah,
different restaurant.
that's a tough one.
Wine-based
That's a tough
margarita,
one.
not so much.
I don't like that.
Always watch your bartender make your margaritas.
Now,
what
you
I'm saying.
mentioned a cocktail earlier that you said you made with your old Humble Distilling, with your straight whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
It was 3 ingredients.
It's called our Apple Blossom.
Apple blossom.
It is my mom's favorite cocktail.
So it's whiskey,
Apple juice, and cinnamon.
And cinnamon. So I love just the thought of that.
We
That
serve it on
sounds
the rocks,
fantastic.
but it also tastes great warm. If you heat up the apple juice and cinnamon together, it makes for a fantastic warm cocktail.
Oh,
in the
yeah,
winter
like
months.
Instead of
the
like a
winter
mulled
weeks.
wine, you can do more
right.
like
I like it.
warm apple blossom.
So for those 3 weeks of winter we have, it's fantastic.
Yes. Blink and you will miss it. Let's go to our next spirit here. What are we going to be trying, my friend?
Put that there.
Okay, so
This is our special reserve whiskey.
Okay. So
So
the
what-
difference between your regular and your special reserve
So
is
our straight whiskey is 100% corn. Let me
why? Thank you.
give you a full shot there. Our straight whiskey is 100% corn, aged 5 years in used bourbon barrels, and handcrafted up in Humble. Our special reserve is a third of that stock that we put back in barrels.
So you take a third of
Roughly
You
a
can
third.
smell the cinnamon on it right off the top.
We put it back in barrels, small casks, and age it again for 6 to 8 weeks.
So when you get your whole your whole amount of whiskey, 1/3 of it is putting back into the barrels again, right?
In new casks.
In new casks, okay.
So it already has that base flavor of our straight whiskey, and we put it back in new casks and age it a second time. So it gives it a little bit darker color, a little bit deeper flavor.
And buttery.
And that makes our special reserve.
Wow.
It's like the same flavors but smoother, like more refined and a little buttery.
And let's just mention the
It's a little
straight
sweeter.
The straight whiskey's very smooth. I mean, so it's not like you got to go to this to get smoothness, but it does kind of take it to a different level. You're right, Ian. Definitely some butteriness.
Yeah.
And the cinnamon hits at a different place on the tongue, but it still hits. And I like that.
What is the proof on this one?
90 proof as well.
90 proof as well.
So it starts off with this base flavor of the straight whiskey. And then the second aging in the barrel kind of layers in another flavor another layer of flavor on top
Now,
of that.
taste is very subjective, and we've been talking about like what we're tasting in this, especially the vanilla, the cinnamon, and on this one, the butteriness especially. And this still has that mineral water kind of aftertaste. Now, this has a little bit fuller mouthfeel than the other one has. How would you describe this whiskey to someone who has never tried it? Like, excluding everything we've said, how would you describe it?
Well, I said before that I'm more interested in the feel than the flavor, because I could tell you what it tastes like, and you will taste what it tastes like.
I'm going to go ahead and say that this is a little bit like a sunflower in mid-bloom.
Fair.
Okay.
It feels good.
Dilly dilly.
Dilly, dilly.
If people, in fact, my little brother lives in Savannah. I sent a few bottles with him. He came and visited over the Christmas break, and he went back with a case or so for his friends and neighbors. One of his friends was asking what it tasted like, and I told him, just give him a shot. Let him know what it tastes like. And then I went on to describe it as it tastes exactly the opposite of what a kick in the nuts feels.
Well,
You know.
I would agree.
It tastes like it tastes like a kitten sleeping on your belly, nice and cozy. It tastes like sitting in a hammock on a warm spring afternoon.
okay. I'm going to start translating because that's a little esoteric here.
Well, let me.
But I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, so the first statement, it's the opposite of a kick in the nuts, right?
Right.
So let me go ahead and translate. That means I actually want to go back and get another. Okay, so that's the first thing that happens. The second one was the warm, cozy kitten sleeping on your belly. That is the lack of heat when you taste this, and then the warm feeling that comes back at the end of the palate and just warms the back of your throat.
Okay.
What was the last thing you said?
Laying in a hammock on a warm spring afternoon.
That's the sun warming up your skin and the nice, beautiful, warm feeling you get after you've swallowed this and it hits your belly.
Well, I appreciate the interpretation, but I have to say, you have completely changed my perception, because I didn't know there was anybody in Humble waxing poetic in this way, and this is a new revelation for me. But that's not I'm not bagging on Humble. I just didn't know it was a poets community, and apparently, I'm hearing you describe
That's what we
whiskey
do.
in this way, and I'm thinking,
Like, I gotta go on one of these tours.
There's a whole poetic movement going on in Humble that I knew nothing about.
That's what we do. We invent oil and
invent oil. Yeah, it's amazing.
Poetize.
It's amazing actually. It is amazing actually how, if you can invent oil and make some money for that, how it gives you the freedom to become a poet. Right?
There you go.
That's just
There you
the
go.
thing.
That's what we do.
Do you ever spend time distilling? I mean, that was amazing.
Yes, yes, we do. But that was the intent
Is this-
behind this. Was not. I mean, I can tell you what it tastes like. It tastes like whiskey. It tastes like whiskey the way whiskey should taste. It doesn't have that medicine-y aftertaste. It doesn't have that harsh bite. It doesn't have that sting you get in your nostrils and in the back of your throat. The best explanation is what it doesn't have, because everybody's familiar with what whiskey does have. They've had their mass-produced whiskeys that they have to drown in Coke in order for it to taste good.
Right.
We don't have to drown our whiskey in Coke. You can taste fine in a shot glass.
The flavor.
It can taste fine on the rocks.
And even slightly overproofed. It's really nice and smooth. And not,
we do it overproof on purpose because I prefer it on the rocks so that it can be chilled down a little bit. And you put
And
it
you
on
don't
the
want it
rocks,
to
it
get
chills
too
down.
diluted.
It doesn't
Yeah.
taste like
Yeah,
water.
I
Exactly.
love that. I love that.
So you can
Now-
sit down. It tastes like a nap in the third quarter of a Texans game. Because
That's unbelievable.
because
What he means by this is it puts you in
Please
such an
translate
amazingly
it.
relaxed state.
Yeah.
you have a couple of these, and it doesn't matter how many interceptions Matt Schaub throws.
I was going to say, I fell asleep in the third quarter of a Texans game once, and when I woke up, Matt Schaub had thrown 3 interceptions. So it happens.
That's how it goes.
It happens. Is this your proudest achievement in your line?
The proudest achievement is still my Boomtown Bourbon.
Yeah.
That's the thing that set the ship sailing. This is my bridge between my straight whiskey and my Boomtown Bourbon. Mm-hmm. Over here would be the Boomtown Bourbon. It is still our flagship.
Your flagship product.
El Dorado, whatever you want to call it. I cannot wait until this Christmas when it comes back out. We should have about 100 bottles available.
How long's it been since it was on shelves?
We sold out of it July of 2000. See, this is 2019, July 2017. We sold out of it at the shop. I saw the last bottles on store shelves in March. And that was at a Total Wine in the Med Center.
Now, do you have a plan in place to do some longer aging?
Yes. Yes. So when we move into our new facility, I'm going to break out the larger stills. We'll have more capacity, more space. I'll break back out into our, right now we have 25 gallons still. I'm going to break back into our 250 gallons of still space. That will give us the capacity to put up 50 gallons at a time and have 5 or 6 barrels aging over the course of 5 to 7 years.
And for some,
so our Boomtown special, or our Boomtown Reserve, is the next product in the product line.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Boomtown Reserve.
So
nice.
for some of the people out there who don't really necessarily aren't really whiskey drinkers specifically, if you don't understand the process, a lot of whiskey is aged and goes by age. And if you have a brand new distillery, you can't have aged whiskey because you're not that old.
You haven't been around
So
that long.
you have to have a plan in place.
Or you have to
okay,
outsource the production to somebody else.
Right. And if you're going to do this in-house, you have to have a plan in place to take your distillate and age it for a certain amount of time. So you can't put out, a 4-year or a 7-year-old whiskey.
Right.
If
Until
you're
you've
only
been around for 4 or 7 years. Yeah.
Exactly.
if you're only 3-4 years old.
And try as you might, you cannot go to your landlord and say, "Can I pay you with a barrel of whiskey?" They surprisingly enough, they want money for rent.
That's bizarre.
I know. People
Ian,
wanted
maybe
money.
you should be a landlord, because I have a feeling that if you went to Ian and you were wanting to pay your rent with a barrel of whiskey, you might get somewhere. I'm just saying.
Possibility.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Well, this is terrific. What is this? What is this going to retail for?
So this is at Specs. This is 25, and this I think is 30. At the distillery, this is 30, and this is 40.
I would say at both of those price ranges, I mean, this really outperforms expectations at those price ranges.
Well, thank you. And what you also get at the distillery is both of these bottles will be signed by the guy who made it.
Oh, nice.
And as well as samples and cocktails and an awesome tour and all the other stuff.
So
and that's on Saturdays at 2 to...
Saturdays between 12 and 2.
Oh, between 12 and 2.
And you make reservations online. If I don't have reservations for tours, I may not be there, or I may not be prepared for the tour because we have to have supplies for the cocktails. Every tour.
This is a small operation. How many people do you have working with you?
1. Counting me?
There you have it.
Including me?
Yes.
1.
There you go.
I have a part-time
That's
brand ambassador who
real
works with
deal
me,
right there.
mostly on the south side. She does a lot of events down in Kemah. We're in 8 venues in Kemah in the Lighthouse District, and you can probably catch her doing tastings at 5 o'clock in Specs around town. I will be at the Kingwood Specs. What is today? Wednesday? Thursday? I'll be at Kingwood tomorrow, Friday, and Atascocita Specs on Saturday. Dawn, you can probably catch her floating around town on the south and west sides of town.
So this is real hands-on, real deal.
It's very
You
hands-on.
make this.
I love that.
And if you look at the labels, point them towards the camera over there. If you look at the labels, you can see they're probably. I'm looking at these 2 back labels. This one is crooked, and this one is slightly off center.
And
So yeah, it's very.
what you're
hands-on.
pointing out is that it's a small hands-on.
It's very hands-on.
You're like, I'm
yeah.
just sticking these down as quick as I can get them.
What are you doing today? Hey, I'm putting the labels on.
Yeah, that's what we do. We'll have a couple of volunteers come in, help me bottle up. One person will be doing labels. One person will be filling.
in whiskey?
Yeah,
Nice. Okay.
sometimes.
All right. I'm gonna let you know when I'm off.
Yeah, I was going to say Ian will be out later this afternoon. All right, we're going to take a break. Come back for our final segment. We have another. Oh, have we? We didn't taste the sour, did we? Okay. So in the next segment, we're going to taste both the sour, because this, Adam, is this 4? We're in 4 now. Okay, so our final segment, we're going to taste both the.
We've been drinking. I don't know
both
where we're
the
at.
sour and the barley wine. Because we don't want to miss out on either of these. So that's coming up. Plus, I got some questions for you about the Boomtown Bourbon, and we'll continue this discussion. I love how crafty this is, if I can say it that way. I just love the fact that it's more of a passion project than it is. It's what you don't get sometimes when you're dealing with the larger companies. Honestly, I have nothing against the larger companies if they make a great product. But the passion that goes into the fact that you may have put this label on the back of this yourself, there's something about that I find really, really cool.
Also, he couldn't send out an employee because he doesn't have one.
It. Yeah,
Yeah, she's working right now doing something else.
All right, we'll be right back. It's Smoking a Toast, and thank you for listening.
That was awesome. But yeah, we legitimately spill more, or they spill more than we produce. That was the old Sam Adams line.